hint of Shavuos, Torah, above mathematical calculations. Give it Tashin Salach, press 3.
That was an invalid entry.
For a share of the top
Yithro, we have Matan Torah, and as we already have mentioned that in the previous weeks in Bayam B'Shalach, when we read the Kriya of a Yom Tov, so as the Sodom say, HaKriya meyereret et hazman. The Kriya stimulates the man to come down. Let's understand it this way. The Rabbeinu Shleilam has like a circular file. You saw a circular file, the file, and you turn it, and the files come up, and you take out which card you want. In the Rabbeinu Shleilam circular files, there are 355 cards. Each one is a day. And this file keeps on revolving in 355 days. And once in 355 days, as adjusted by the Yithro, each day comes on upon the world, it reaches the bottom, then it moves up, and the next day comes in. Moves up, and the next day comes in. Sometimes there are very important happenings that are registered on that file. Like, for instance, about 3,500 years ago, so on Tezvav Nisan, there was Yithro Mitzrayim. So that was registered and inscribed on that card of the file. Every year when Tezvav Nisan comes down, it's not just Tezvav Nisan comes down, but whatever Tezvav Nisan has in it comes down. So every year on Tezvav Nisan, we re-experience Yithro Mitzrayim. We have Yithro Mitzrayim over again. And it is man of Geula. And like we sing the Agada, Leis of the Sainable Vajja or the Sainable Aragami Manu. Every year on Pesach we go out of Mitzrayim. Every year has a Mitzrayim, and every year has a Yithro Mitzrayim. In whichever way it expresses itself. For the Zoya, every Zoya has a certain Shibut Mitzrayim. Every individual has a certain Shibut Mitzrayim. It's the Tumah of Mitzrayim, in the Shibut of the Yithro, and such in Yanim. And by Yithro Mitzrayim, he goes out of that. Every year on Purim, we have, when Yudal Adar and Yudal and Tezvav Adar come down, we relive Purim. It's a geula. It isn't history. It isn't the thing that we say once happened. It isn't a commemoration like the Americans will commemorate 4th of July. So what's 4th of July? Sizzling firecrackers. That's as far as it goes. But by us, it isn't that way. Purim is manish Purim, Mechiyas HaMameh. So this is the circular file that Rabbeinu Shleilam has. And every year on Pesach, so fact that there are psukim of Yitro Mitzrayim written down on Pesach, so we benefit from the yisro that comes down from, and the ruchnius that comes down from the Yithro. However, there's another opportunity to enjoy Pesach and to experience Pesach, even though that day didn't come down. And that is through the parashas of the Torah. Because the source of everything is the Torah. The whole world, the whole universe was created by the psukim of the Torah. The fact that the Rebbeinu Shalom uttered the pasuk, and it became a pasuk in the Torah, that's why there is ayah. The fact that Rebbe said, "Nine to Adam, but Hamayim could Mustainu," that's why we are Adam. The Torah is higher than the calendar, because the calendar drew us from the Torah. The Staku B'Yaraitu Bara Alma, the Mother said. So Rebbeinu Shalom looked into the Torah and created the world. So the Torah is the makkah, it's the source, it's the origin. And everything that comes from that, whichever happens in a certain day, is a result of the fact that it's inscribed in the Torah. So supposing this coming Shabbos is not Shisha B'Tzivit, it's not the day of Shavuot, but we're going to read the Psukim of Shavuot. We're going to read B'Chaydesh HaShlishi B'Tzayis B'nai Yisro Me'Yeretz Mitzrayim B'Yom Hazeh Midbar Sinai. We're going to read Anochi Hashem Elokecha V'lo Yi'elecha and the Aseret HaDibros, all of them. So we're going to the source. So every time that we read a certain portion of the Torah, we benefit from the hashpah, from that specific bounty of that Yom Tov, even though calendar-wise it isn't that Yom Tov, because Torah-wise it's that Yom Tov. And more than that, because it's from the Torah. It's the moshe. So this Shabbos, we're going to learn the Parsha of Matan Torah. And it's a very special Shabbos. It's a landmark Shabbos. It's another opportunity to be Mikabel the Torah if somebody feels that Shavuot didn't get the most out of it. The day of Tshuva and Kabbalah Malchut Shemaya and Kabbalah Torah and Simcha for Kabbalah Torah and by Yidro, especially in the Hasidish and the Kainis, these 3 weeks by the Shalach and Yithro were very special Shabbatim, and the Hasidim usually made a trip to the Rebbe in these 3 weeks, because these aren't ordinary Shabbatim. That's not the correct way of saying it, because there never was an ordinary Shabbat, and there never will be an ordinary Shabbat. Every Shabbat is special Shabbat, but this is more yet. It's a very special Shabbat, and prepare yourself for such a Shabbat. It's a Shabbat that a person can become a new person. Think of yourself like a Yid that's Mikabel the Torah. And you weren't a Yid till now, and now you're becoming a Yid because you're being Mikabel the Torah. There are 2 zmanim when we could be Mikabel the Torah. When we get hashpayis min hashemayim, and even though because of the Avayah that a person does, that insulates his mind from his neshama, and the mind doesn't feel what the neshama experiences, but we do believe that the neshama has a special experience on Shavuot, on Shabbat Yithro. It's being the Kabul of the Torah. It hears again from the Rabbeinu Shalom, Mipi HaGevura, Anochi V'Lo. So, it's a very special Shabbat. And one of the specific points of this Shabbat is that a Yid should consider himself that till now he was like a guy, and now he's becoming a Yid through Matan Torah. So therefore, on these 2 days, when we have the Yom Tov of Matan Torah, we learn about a guy who was Megayah himself. On Shavuot, we learn the Megillah of Ruth, who was Megayah herself, because Shavuot is a man of Gayah. So Megayah herself, just like Ruth was Megayah herself. And on Shabbat Yithro, we learn about Yithro, who was Megayah himself. When he came, by Yishma Yithro, when he came, and he was Megayah himself. But Yithro is more than Ruth, because Yithro is the Kayach of Shabbat, and Ruth is only a Kayach of Shavuot. Shavuot is Mitzad the calendar. Shabbat Yithro is Mitzad the Torah, the Makkah, the origin of the calendar. So that's why, even though Yithro and Ruth are the same ideas, but Yithro has an extra use. More Aseret Kodibra. We're being Mekabel the Torah even in a bigger way. And the Tekayach of Shabbat. Shabbat has a lot of tegulas in itself. Shabbat gives us a lot that we don't work for. Shabbat the Rabbeinu Shalom gives us. Yom Tov, we produce. We produce the Yom Tov. We manufacture the Yom Tov. The Rabbeinu Shalom gives us the Shabbat. And that's why the Gemara says, we make the bracha when Shabbat and Yom Tov comes out together, Mekadesh HaShabbat, v'Yisrael v'Hazmanim. First comes Shabbat, then comes Yisrael, and then comes Manim, Yom Tov. Because Shabbat is Kriya the Kaima. Shabbat the Rabbeinu Shalom created it. It's Rabbeinu Shalom who makes Shabbat. He makes the 7th day. Mekadesh HaShabbat. And then comes Yisrael, Vazmanim. And Yisrael first, because Yisrael created Manim. Because of things that happened to Yisrael, and also because of the Iber HaChayish. It's the Sanhedrin of the Klal Yisrael, the Sanhedrin who are the Shluchim of Klal Yisrael, that they determine when Yom Tov comes out, according to the way that they make when Rosh Chodesh comes out. So that's when Yom Tov comes out. If it's 2 days Rosh Chodesh, Yom Tov will come out a day later. If they decide to make a new Rosh Hashanah, Yom Tov will come out a Chodesh later. The Klal Yisrael produces the Yom Tov, which is totally in a certain day of the Chodesh. But it's the Rabbeinu Shalom that determines the Shabbat. Shabbat is Kriya the Kaima. Vayichal Elokim b'yom hashvi'i, vayivarach Elokim et yom hashvi'i, v'kadosh ha'Yisrael. It's not totally in the burden of Yisrael. Shabbat is a higher thing. And therefore, we have to work for Yom Tov. Shabbos, Rabban Shalom does for us. Shabbos, like the Sfarim say, is called a Yithro. It comes from above. Yom Tov is a Yithro of the top. It comes from below, from what we do. Torah is a big madrega. It's a big, big asset to Klal Yisrael that they have the Torah. And we have to prepare ourselves to be Mekabel the Torah. The Torah is Kodesh. We have to prepare ourselves to be Mekabel the Torah. So therefore, the Rabbeinu Shalom tells us we should prepare. By 7 weeks of Sfira, we count Sfira Ta'ayno, and we're Mezachach our Midah. And then, when 7 comes, prepare for the third day, the Rabbeinu Shalom says. Prepare for the Matan Torah, our picture Elisha. Keep yourself in Kedusha. And all the achanas that a Yid makes for Shavuot for Matan Torah. So if we have to prepare for Matan Torah, in other words, and otherwise we won't benefit from what Shavuot has to offer, we should prepare for Shabbos Yithro. But we don't find that. We don't find that we tell Sfira before Shabbos Yithro. We don't find that. Because Shabbos Yithro is a matana from the Rabbeinu Shalom, like Shabbos is. So Rabbeinu Shalom says, I'll give it to you, even though you didn't prepare. And in fact, it's much easier on Shabbos Yithro to be Mekabel Oil Torah with a Chatshut, mamish like a Geir that's Megayer himself, than on Shavuot. So, Yithro heard Shiyas Yamsuf, Amuchemes Amalei, that's what Rashi says. Vayishma Yithro, Mashmu Hashem Uva, Shiyas Yamsuf Amuchemes Amalei, and he came. And Yithro came. When he came, it was already in the middle of the Sfira. He didn't prepare. He didn't tell Sfira. Because the Yithro went out of Mitzrayim, and he started telling Sfira the first day after Yetzias Mitzrayim. On Kriyas Yamsuf, it was the 6th day of Sfira. And then, according to the Cheshbonis, it comes out that the Melchemes Hamelech was in the 6th week of Sfira. And then Yithro came. He didn't go through the process of Sfira Ta'ayno, preparing himself. And Yithro was Megayer himself. Without Sfira. Without preparation. And he was Eichet with Torah. Because Shabbos Yithro is the Koyach of Shabbos. So on Shabbos Yithro, we learn about Yithro as Hagdama before Matan Torah. But Yithro was Megayer himself without Tefillah before Matan Torah. And to show us that Yithro had a certain special gedula that even Shavuot tells me that, without preparation. So therefore, this comes to the surface by seeing the difference in the two haftarahs between Shavuot and Shabbos Yithro. On Shavuot, after we learn the Haftarah Tadibra, we have the Haftarah of Yecheskel. Yecheskel Nisbech al Nahar, Dvar Hashem Esha Yecheskel ben Buzi, al Nahar Kvar, by the river of Kvar, by the river. So the Gemara says, how was Yecheskel able to be Zeicher to Nebuah and Chutla? He was in Basel. So the characters, he was by the river. And the river is a Makim Tahara. It's Mitayro in the river. So by the river, there's a Makim Tahara, he was Zeicher. He was Zeicher to the Nebuah, and what Yecheskel saw was the Merkava. Yecheskel saw, he saw the whole heavenly chariot. The way Kaviyach with the Rabbeinu Shalom, it sits out, he takes Vaizai, and the Malachim, and the Tzfor, and Abba Galayim, and the Malachim carry that Kisei, and he saw the whole Merkava Ha'aliyayim. That's what Yecheskel saw. Because on Yithro, on Shavuot, being that the Yidin saw by Matan Torah the Merkava Aliyayna, so we Elena have Torah by the Navi that also saw the Merkava Aliyayna. And Yithro saw, and Yecheskel saw the way the Malachim say Kedusha. On the house 12, he was by the river of 12 in the modern town. On Parshas Yithro, we have an altogether different haftarah. The same thing, mamish the same thing, that Yeshaya HaNavi saw the Merkava. And he saw that Hashem Yoshe, like he says, underneath the Shul of Malaya V'Tehechot, Chazam the Memaralah. And he saw the Karazel, the Yama Kadosh, Kadosh, Kadosh. He saw the Malachim saying Shira for the Rabbeinu Shalom. And these two haftarahs are similar. Two Nevi'im who saw the Merkava, who got a glimpse of what's going on by Shemayim, of the Malachim carrying the Kisei HaTorah. And that's where we get our Kedusha from. Vayata Kadosh, by Chazal Tashat, we say Kedusha. Kedusha consists of two psukim. The first pasuk is, the Karazal Zabama Kadosh, 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 Hashem Tzvakis Malach Alor Tzvay, which we have in the haftarah of Yithro. And the second pasuk is, Baruch Tzvay Hashem Lemekayimai, which we have in the haftarah of Yecheskel. But there's a big difference. By Yecheskel, which we learn on Shavuot, we say the Seidish that there was Kedusha there was Tahara on the house. Well, when Yeshaya saw this Merkava, so Yeshaya says, how can I behold such a big Kedusha? Ki yish tmeis v'sayim anoichi, u'b'tzayich am tmeis v'sayim anoichi yoishe, ki et ha-melech Hashem tzvakei tzvah. Gewalt am tamei. Big difference. Yeshaya saw the Merkava when he was tamei. Yecheskel saw the Merkava when he was tamei on the house. It's a big difference. Because on Shabbos Yithro, the Rebbe doesn't say prepare. With Tahara, with Tziva, with artificial Orisha, with all the Tahara that's necessary for Matan Torah. You're telling me, I'll give you the Torah anyway. The special Matana, special boon from the Rabbeinu Shalom that we have on Parshas Yithro. Special Matana. And the Haftarah starts, Bishnat Tmais HaMelech U'Ziyah. And the Gemara Darshan that Yithro didn't actually die, but it became a Mitzvah, which is the biggest tzumah that a live person can ever have. A Mitzvah like a mess is Matami B'Yoyno. No other tummy is Matami B'Yoyno. A mess is also Matami B'Yoyno. But a live person should be Matami B'Yoyno, a living person. And that was Yithro. The Haftarah starts off with background of Sunnah. So Rabbeinu Shalom is prepared to give you the Torah. Just listen to this. Be Mava the Torah. So I played the Parsha of Matan Torah with Kavanah and Simcha, and listen to the Balkairi reading the Aseret HaDibros. And besides the read the Aseret HaDibros, we actually experience Matan Torah. So a big tzaddikim that they showed their Talmidim, the Shas Matan, the Shas, the Kriyas HaTorah on Shavuot, Nefashas Yisro, that they mamish the people in the shul saw the Kairos Uparatim of Matan Torah. They experienced it in a certain way, to a certain degree, the way the Eden experienced it by Matan Torah. Shabbos, Yithro, and Pash, and also Shavuot, every Yid goes through the experience of hearing the Rabban Shalom say, "Like Hashem Elokecha." It's a rejuvenation of your emunah, of your Kabbalah Torah. So, utilize this Shabbos. As we look into Parshas Yithro, we come across a big terror. Every word of the Torah is divided in the mud. It's the figure Nickel Vashon Seifrim Ka'aikish of the Torah. The Torah is, there's so many sides in the Torah, so many in the Tla'ais in the Torah. David HaMelech beseeches to the Rabbeinu Shalom, Gal Einai v'Abit in the Tla'ais in the Torah. The Torah too is in the Tla'ais and in the Tla'ais. Anyone who learns the Torah with a little depth, even the Niglates of Torah, certainly the Pneumius of Torah, sees that the Torah is Manashemayim. There's no two ways about it. He sees in Yanim in the Torah that a human mind can't make. The way everything fits into place is the way the Rosh Torah, the Sefer Torah, the Gematriyos, the Dvarim, the Tlaim, and the Ois. Everything we see this in the Torah. So we have a Messiah that counts the Psukim and each Sedra. The Messiah counts Medina. We count the Psukim and each Sedra. And every word and all the ideas, there's no Sefer called Messiah Gedaira and Messiah Ketana. A small little part of this Messiah is printed in the Kamen Chamashim at the end of each Sedra, telling you how many psukim is in each Sedra, and with a siman from mostly using a name of somebody mentioned in Tanakh, telling you how many psukim is in that Sedra. There's one exception in Parshas Mikei. Not only does it tell you how many psukim there are in the Sedra, it tells you even how many words are in the Sedra. I think we spoke about it. So in Parshas Yithro, we have the Messiah at the end of the Sedra, which tells you, I am there. There are 72 psukim in Yithro. Yainadav sinner. Yainadav is a sinner. Because Yithro had a descendant whose name was Yainadav. And the psukim and Nach tell us very big things about Yainadav. He was a tzaddik and learned a lot of Torah, and he was Meitzah Nefesh for Torah. And he didn't live in the house, he lived in the tent, so that he shouldn't have the taildates of taking care of the house and taking care of an estate. And he was making nefesh for Torah. You're not a sinner, you're not a sinner. So there are 72 psukim, and Yainadav is the gematria of 72. That means after Simon, how many psukim are in Yithro? I'm a curious fellow by nature, so I decided to count the psukim. Now here are 72 psukim. they found 75 psukim. I counted again, counted backwards, forwards. I used my fingers. 75 psukim. How could it be? So, Baruch Hashem, I came upon an idea, and there certainly is something to that idea, that in Yithro, we have the Aseret HaDibros. The Aseret HaDibros are laid differently when we lay it b'yachid or when we lay it b'rabin. On the parasha v'daber Elokim starts with Pasuk Aleph, and it finishes with Reis Achmei, which is Pasuk Yud Dalet. In other words, the Aseret HaDibros are 13 psukim, from base to Yud Dalet included. When we learn the Aseret HaDibros b'rabim in shul, we don't learn it as psukim, but we learn it as dibros. In other words, we don't divide it into 13 psukim. We divide it into 10 dibros. So therefore, it changes the words also, and it changes the traf. Because every pasuk ends with a safe pasuk. And then there's klolim and digduk, as we'll soon discuss that. Now, supposing we take the second yisro, l'yir lecha lekim achayim al panay, l'sasa lecha pesel b'chal tzmuna, shebishmai mimal, l'teshachva lehem v'lo yita'avdem, the second yisro consists of 4 psukim. But when we line it as in the Rabin, the Tama Elyain, we don't make 4 psukim out of it, but we make 1 zibur out of it. So therefore, each pasuk doesn't end with a saif pasuk. So we transform the saif pasuk into a revi'yi. So when you line it b'yachid, we'll finish the first pasuk by Shabbat l'yir lecha lekim achayim al panay, saif pasuk. But when we line it b'rabim, we can't add and finish it with the saif pasuk. We finish with the revi'yi. L'yir lecha lekim achayim al panay, and we continue. Because we don't make any saif pasuk. On the other hand, on the end of the Aseret HaDibros, we have like Tiyatzach, like Tenah, like Tignai, like Sana, like Achmei. Well, that's a new pasuk. But these 3 dibros, like Tiyatzach, like Tenah, and like Tignai, like Tiyatzach, like Tenah, like Tignai, like Sana, 4 dibros in 1 pasuk. So we make 1 dibur out of 4 dibros out of 1 pasuk. So therefore, we don't say lo yitzach, lo yitzach. We say lo yitzach with the same pasuk. Lo yitzach, and then there's another chiluk. We have to change the nekudos, because the way it's Tama Tashtain, there's Me'ach HaTifcha, Leis Yotzach. So being that the Saf comes after the Aleph, it's a Rafet, Yotzach. But when we learn the Dibros, there's a Tifcha after the Lamed, and Yotzach has the same pasuk, and we stop. So we say, Loi Yotzach. True, yes. So the nafka is this way. Nafkamina is this way. If we learn it together, it's a suf. If we make a tikra, it's a tuf. Because after an aleph, when something comes in a liquid form, it's fluid, it goes together, and after an aleph, after aleph, hey, vav, and yud, you don't have any zakas, you have a rasa. So instead of loisiyatach, loisinaf, loisignai, loisana, the Chazan is going to say loisiyatach, loisinaf, loisignai, loisana. So when you learn it in the Chumash, when your mother says, then you're going to say loisiyatach. The Chazan is going to say loisiyatach, because it makes a whole pasuk out of it, out of two words. And if you make the whole cheshbon together, you're going to see that the Aseret HaDibros is 13 psukim, but when we learn it as Divrei, it's 10 psukim. That means -3. So that's why the Messiah says that the 72 psukim, when actually there's really 75 psukim. Because he counts the Aseret HaDibros as 10, not as 13. This is l'chayla, the true text. I can prove it to you. Because there's another place in the Torah where you again have the Aseret HaDibros. In Parshas Vayikra, a repetition of the Aseret HaDibros. And there you're going to find the same phenomenon. At the end of the Messiah will tell you less psukim than the Law and the Seder. Because the Aseret HaDibros have a different cheshbon. L'chayla, that's a good Seder. And you can prove it with first hand. But it's not a good Seder. Can't be acceptable. Can't be acceptable. It's not a good Seder. Because the Messiah counts psukim. The Aseret HaDibros sounds psukim. The Aseret HaDibros are divrei. Even when I count the Aseret HaDibros as 10 divrei, but the 13 psukim, and there's a big nafkamin and halacha between the pasuk and the dibur. Kala nafkaminas and halachas. So the halacha is that you can't pull over somebody to the Torah. You can't give somebody the aliyah to the Torah with less than 3 psukim. That's a halacha. So supposing you want to call somebody up and give him the aliyah, like terfach, like tinef, like tignai. So the Shulchan Aruch and Tov Tzadik Dalet says the Fedish, you can't do that. Because it's one pasuk. It might be 3 dibros, but it's one pasuk. A pasuk is one thing, and the dibur is another thing. And the fact that it's 3 dibros doesn't change the halacha. You can't give somebody an aliyah with 3 dibros. You might give them 3 psukim. You can't mix dibros and psukim. It's 2 different concepts. So how could the Bala Messiah say that it's 72 psukim when it's actually 75? I count the dibros as 10. Why are you mixing up dibros with psukim? You're counting the psukim. You're counting psukim. If I would say somebody, count me 72 apples. I want 72 apples. I want 75 apples. And we only have 72. You can't add to the oranges and say, here's your 72, here's your 72 apples. Oranges don't mix with apples. It's a different concept altogether. So, I'll tell you something which you need a little, perhaps, training for this concept. A little amuma and training. To think in the abstract. Because many times in Torah we are encountered with the yanim of the abstract. And this is Torah, because Torah is a lamalam and amakim, a lamalam and azman. Torah comes from a makayim where time and space and numbers don't govern. That's Torah. Torah is l'malam and amakem and l'malam and azman. So this comes to expression in the Beit HaMikdash. In the Beit HaMikdash we had the Aseret HaDibrei in the Aron HaKodesh, which was in the Kodesh HaKadosh. And the pasuk says in Malachim, when Shlomo HaMelech built up the Beit HaMikdash, that the Kodesh HaKadosh was 20 amos by 20 amos. The Mishnah was 10 by 10. Shlomo's Beit HaMikdash was 20 by 20. And the Aron HaKodesh was in the middle, in the center of the Kodesh HaKadosh. And the pasuk tells us that from each wall of the Aron HaKodesh, there were 10 amos to the wall of the Kodesh HaKadosh. From each of them, doesn't work out. Self-understand. How can you say that it's 10 amos? The Aron HaKodesh also occupies it. So the Gemara Megillah asks this question. And the Gemara answers the teretz that you have to squeeze your head into that teretz. And you have to accept what you don't understand. The Gemara answers, Makim ha'aron eina min ha'midah. The Aron HaKodesh isn't measured. It's higher than measurement. It stands there. It occupies space. It's 2.5 amos by 1.5 amos, but it occupies nothing. From each wall of the Aron HaKodesh to the wall of the Kodesh HaKadosh, there's 10 amos. Geometrically, it doesn't house it. The Kodesh HaKadosh is not Olam Haba. The Kodesh HaKadosh belongs to Olam Haba, to Shemayim. It's an embassy of Shemayim here on this world. When somebody goes to the Kodesh HaKadosh, it's like walking into the Shemayim. But Shemayim, there's no numbers. In the Kodesh HaKadosh, there's no numbers. Mathematics don't exist in the Kodesh HaKadosh. Makim ha'aron eina min ha'midah. Now, in two places we have the Aseret HaDibrei. The Aseret HaDibrei, which is the only article in Olam Hazeh which was imported min HaShamayim. Because Moshe Rabbeinu came down min HaShamayim with the Aseret HaDibrei. It was imported min HaShamayim. It's an import from heaven, from the celestial house. So, therefore, since Bashamayim there's no numbers, it's above mathematics, it defies mathematics. So when you import the Aseret HaDibrei and you put it into Olam Hazeh and the Kodesh HaKadosh, the Aseret HaDibrei defy mathematics. And the Aron HaKodesh, which contain the Aseret HaDibrei, aren't mathematically true. It's Makim ha'aron eina min ha'midah. So the Aron HaKodesh is the container of the Aseret HaDibrei. In Torah, Parashat Yithro is the container of the Aseret HaDibrei. Just like, in other words, Parashat Yithro is the Aron HaKodesh which contains the Aseret HaDibrei. Because we have the Torah, the 10 Aseret HaDibrei in Parashat Yithro. And therefore, Parashat Yithro eina min ha'midah. It's not mathematically laid out. It doesn't work. And this is L'daiti, a true tenet. The Messiah we have in Sinai that there are 72 psukim in Parashat Yithro. Are you ask a kasha that there are 75? Don't ask me no kashas about about numbers in Parshas Yithro. Parshas Yithro isn't mishubet to numbers. Where are numbers? Numbers have no shaykhs to Parshas Yithro. Just like the Yom HaKadosh, Einim and Amid, and don't have no kashas on the dimensions which are mentioned from Shleim HaMelech, don't have no kashas on Yithro. And the same thing is for Tzana. Einim and Amid. It's not like that. It doesn't work. I forgot. I should have brought down the Rambam. The Rambam, I should have brought down the face of Rambam, and you would have seen clear here. But from memory, I'm going to say what the Rambam says. The Rambam in Seif Hilchos Shemitah v'Yovel tells us that the Shevet Levi has no nachla in Eretz Yisrael. Hashem will nachla. The Rabbanei Shalom will provide them with panah. And so the Rambam finishes off. And not only the Shevet Levi, but Kol Ish Yisrael, Asher not v'ali by Eisai, that Lischek me'yalav oil cheshbonei sarab, and to be mikabel the Yotayim, Hareizan is Kaddish Kodesh Kedoshim, and he's like the Shevet Levi, and he has a promise from the Rabbanei Shalom that he'll have panah. Just like David the Melech said, Hashem Menot Chalki v'Chayisi at the time of Gerari, you Rabbanei Shalom, you can give me panah. David the Melech wasn't from the Shevet Levi, but it's in Kabul oil tell you. That's what the Rambam says. What's pshat in that? We have the Aseret HaDibros, the physical Aseret HaDibros in the Kodesh HaKadosh. We have the psukim of the Aseret HaDibros in Parshas Yithro. And then there's the Neshama Dika Aseret HaDibros in the Talmud Chacham who's Mekabel Oyel U'Tayva. The Talmud Chacham who's Mekabel Oyel U'Tayva. The Rabbanei Shalom gives them panah. He can't figure it out. How did he have panah? How does it? It doesn't stem. The Bnei Sascha used to take younger lights who learned Torah, and he used to take them and make with them a cheshbon. A whole cheshbon. What are your hechsoi for the year? What are your hachnasas? What's your income? What are your expenses? And he always showed them that their expenses are more than the income. So how does it work? If the expenses are more than the income, this says, I want to show you something. Your panasa shreya k'derech. It's five numbers. The computer will work, but they'll have panasa. We don't give the numbers. Rashi says it last week said that the Moshe Rabbeinu was told by the Rabbanei Shalom, you should take a tzenzena sachat, you should take a flat and put in malaya oimel mun, put in mun, and you have it in the mishmeres. Put it into the Kodesh HaKadosh. So together with the Aseret HaDibros. So Rashi says, L'dayre seichem. So Rashi says, B'nei Yirmiyahu. K'shaya Yirmiyahu mechichem. Yirmiyahu was mechich b'zayah. Lama ein atam ha'izchem b'zayah. V'hem oimrim, naniach melachteinu v'natek b'zayah. Meichen d'span, it's how we have panah. Ha'itzi lehem tzenzena saman. Omar lehem, ha'agoya, re'u devar Hashem, shimu lehem al-re'u, b'zeh nispanus u'abiseichen, ha'bishluchem yesh le'lam mokim lachem mazan li'rayah. The man was the five numbers. The same amounts go down on Friday, and they had a double portion for Shabbos also. The man had the shaykhs with Kodesh HaKadosh, it's the five numbers. That's why the tzenzena saman was in the Kodesh HaKadosh together with the luchas. A Kairo younger man defies numbers. He has Panasa. They exist. How do they exist? They exist. But Hashem, they exist. A big plea is when a Kairo younger man has to marry off his children. Well, of a sudden he has money to marry off his children. Where did it come from? From the sky, like the moon. The Eibishter gives it. He has. It defies numbers. Now, why am I telling you this? I don't expect everybody in this room to become a Kailo younger man and not have Panasa and wait that man from the Kodesh HaKadoshim should come down to the Hashemayim and define numbers. Because that's what the Rambam says. The Rambam says that if somebody wants to be, even though he's in the shade of life, and he defines numbers, defines Hashbainis. Hareven is Kodesh Kadashim, he's Kodesh Kadashim. And Kodesh Kadashim, Makim Amar, and Einam and Amid. And so, not the Rucha Yisro. If he volunteered to be Mekabel Oil Torah, he's going to have that. He's going to have Panasa. And that's Pshat in Parshas Yithro. Yoinadav Simen, not the Rucha Yisro. If somebody wants to take the Oil Torah, he'll define numbers, he'll have Panasa, Rebbe promises. Now, there are Kaili Yangamites that struggle and they have Panasa in a small way, and they have what they need, and they learn. Then there are others who suffer and they struggle and they don't have what they need. Why? And then they have to go and drop it and then take a job and this and that, and some of them complain. Why didn't I prepare better for a vocation? The tell us is this way. There's a machlokes in the Sefta Brachas between Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai and Rabbi Yishmael. Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai says everybody must learn Torah, don't go to work. Rabbi Yishmael says, how are you going to have Panasa? You got to go to work. The Torah says, "V'safta deganecha." So the Gemara finishes off, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, many did like Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, they didn't succeed. They couldn't do it. They had to drop Torah and go and work for a Panas. So the Baal Shem Tov says, Pshat, why didn't they succeed? Why do others succeed? So the answer is, Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. They imitated Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai. They didn't do the Shem Shemayim because of others. It's a style. The style is you learn Torah. And you learn the Torah. It depends. If you do it with the Veikis and the Rabbanish Torah, with the Veikis and the Torah, because of others the Torah, you have a written guarantee from the Rabbanish Torah that you're going to get your check on your account every month. If somebody does care Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, he imitates Rabbi Shimon ben Yochai, his heart isn't with it, but peer pressure. My father does it, so I'll do it. No, he won't succeed. It's got to come from pure, dedicated Ahavas HaTorah. And if somebody doesn't feel that he has that, forget it. You have to know who you are. It's not for everybody. Because when Yidden came to Eretz Yisrael, they didn't know who will go to Yerushalayim and learn Torah. They went on the field. And that's what Rabbi Yishmael says. We found the Beganecha. Only a Shevet Levi dedicated themselves purely to Torah. Exclusively to Torah. Only the Shevet Levi. The rest worked on the fields. And they gave the Shevet Levi Truma and Mainzer. They supported them. And 3 times a year they came to Yerushalayim to recharge their Luchniyatik batteries. But it isn't for everybody. You have to know who you are. If you are dedicated with Ahavas HaTorah and with Ahavas HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you're going to have Hatzlach. And if not, become one of the Shvatim and support the Talmud. You have to know who you are. But, and there's a big but with the capital A. Today, it isn't like it used to be. It used to be in old times when Yithro were in the small little towns in Europe. A boy used to learn Torah until he was 14, till he was 15 years old. Then he wanted to work. And when the Rav saw that a certain boy is talented, and he's a Balkishan and he's a mathemist, the Rav saw to it he sent him off in a yeshiva, and he became a Rav, a Dayan, a Rosh Hashiva. Today, everybody must learn Torah. You must. Because of our environment. You can't stop at 14, 15, or even at 17, 18, or 19 and stop learning Torah. You must learn Torah. You must learn Torah even after your chasana. Because you can't expose yourself to the tzimmedik world that we have today without being fully prepared with first years. The world is funny, like it was never before. We're not called in the ghetto like our Zaydans were. We rub shoulders with the Goyish world. With all the tumors of the Zara and Gilead and Shpichas Damim and drugs and whatnot. You have to prepare, you have to condition yourself to the Semitic world in which we are. I hope that Mashiach will come today. But you can never tell, May is also part of the Yamim Ma'anim. It might take a long time. You have to prepare yourself. Every Bacha must know that he must learn well into his 20s, whether he's going to be a Yitzhak or a Zvulun, whether he's going to be a lady or from a different shape. You must learn a lot of Torah and stay in the walls of the yeshiva. And prepare yourself like the animals prepare themselves for the winter. Torah ruchni is dika food, so that we should be able to exist and survive the jungle of tumah to which somebody is exposed when he goes into the world. You need that. So whether you're going to be a lady or an other shaver, whether you're going to be in the Yanadas or whatever, Yisro or Zvulun, but you must prepare yourself with a lot of Torah, a lot of Yom Shemayim, and utilize the years in the yeshiva for that. Good Shabbos.
For a share on the topic of a lesson from Yithro, it's never too late, given Tafshim and Pes, press 1. For a share on the topic of a time to reaffirm our acceptance of the Torah, given Tafshim Samach Beis, press 2. For a share on the topic of a Shabbos with a hint of Shavuos, Torah, above mathematical calculations, given Tafshim Samach, press 3.